everybody, and welcome into Blue Jays Today, folks, where we always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., this man better get paid this offseason what he is worth. We are getting a better idea as to what that may be. There have been some latest reports coming out really predicting and diving into what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to get paid, whether it be by the Toronto Blue Jays or not, because apparently Houston Astros, among some other teams, could be eyeing him this offseason. I mean, like, look at him all you want.
Sure.
I don't want to frickin' trade him. Let's make that very, very clear.
Yeah.
But obviously, we're going to talk about that, as well as Arelis Martinez making some noise in the winter leagues and some former Toronto Blue Jay players going all the way to the World Series. Actually, you know what? Before we even get into all the Toronto Blue Jays stuff, you got Dodgers, you got Yankees in the World Series. Are we all on the Dodgers train at this point?
I think I am, guys, for multiple reasons. Also, love a Bad for Baseball podcast coming out a little bit later, guys, so check that out. We're going to be predicting the whole World Series. But yeah, I'm going Dodgers. You got Teoscar Hernandez on that team. You've got Kevin Kiermaier on that team. I want them to get a ring. And honestly, yeah, some people could still be butthurt about Shohei Ohtani. I'm not. That guy's super awesome to watch, and I want him to go get a ring. Give me Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers to win it. And as well, like, no offense, Yankee fans, but like, kind of don't want you to win the World Series. You know, it's like the next AL East team's going to win the World Series. Better be the freaking Toronto Blue Jays.
So here's the thing. I hear all of that, but let me give you a little pushback right now. Tim Meza.
I don't give a flying shit about Tim Meza.
Tim Meza on the New York Yankees.
Don't care. Dude, this guy's not even getting used.
No, he's not.
He literally has 2 games, 1 1/3 innings pitched in the postseason. This guy's their bottom feeder of the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of the same way here, folks. Obviously, like, you know, you're looking at the 2, most expensive teams in baseball right now, just like spending all their money, and getting to this position. So that part of it all kind of pisses me off a little bit. But if I had to choose one of these 2 teams, it is going to be the LA Dodgers for me. That's going to be my bandwagon. I do like Shohei Ohtani. I do think, like, as well, like, Mookie Betts, quality dude.
Oh, I love Mookie
quality
Betts,
athlete, you know what I mean? Like, just one hell of a competitor. And, of course, Teoscar Hernandez. Like, that's going to be, like, my main dude that I'm going to be riding with, right? If we can't win a World Series, might as well give it to that guy, because I do really appreciate what he is, what he means to this team, and what he means to baseball as a whole.
Yeah, and Freddie Freeman as well. I mean, we experienced a similar situation over here on the Blue Jays where you had, Eric Swanson's son Toby with a tragic accident in spring training, and then you also had a tragic illness, I believe it was for Freddie Freeman's son. I believe his name is Max.
Right.
There's tragedies over there, and Freddie Freeman's such a great guy.
Canadian boy,
parents Canadians, and he plays for Team Canada. You know what I mean? He elects to do it in the honor of his mother. He's a great, well-rounded human being. So I want the great human beings to go and win a World Series. Not saying that the Yankees aren't, but like a lot of great quality guys over there.
Give me the Dodgers. Give them to me in 7. If you want to follow along with that World Series with us, we're going to be live watching those games on our other channel, Bad for Baseball. So go check that out. Let's transition now and talk a little bit about the Toronto Blue Jays, mainly Vladimir Guerrero Jr. As a lot of you know, that contract is going to be coming up. He's not a free agent this coming year, but going to be a free agent walking into next season. And now that the whole season's wrapping up, you're watching some of these other guys going to be hitting free agency. I heard Pete Alonso come out and talk a little bit about the New York Mets and how much he appreciated that team and everything like that. But there's no guarantee that he's going to be going back to the New York Mets.
No.
Alex Bregman, similar story, longtime Houston Astro. No guarantee that he's going to be going back to the Houston Astros. I want myself a guarantee that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to be a Toronto Blue Jay in 2026, 2027, and beyond. And really the only way to do that and to make sure that we are all locked in is to handle that contract this offseason.
Yeah, it's got to be happening this offseason. I mean, you could think back to the Ross Atkins and Mark Chaparro press conference, and that made me feel a lot less confident that's going to happen this offseason, especially because they even said before, like, they were comfortable going into next offseason after 2025.
That's a ridiculous thing
with
to say,
him being
right?
not under contract. That is absolutely ridiculous. You can't do that. I mean, look at the guys around the league who have gotten that extension the year before. Like, it was Jose Ramirez. I mean, they locked down Lindor after the trade. Like, you make that decision right before he goes into his final year. The guys who are a little bit more scarier or like what the Yankees deal with, where it's Juan Soto right now, and Aaron Judge was a little bit scary. They almost lost Aaron Judge, or at least it felt like it, right? When he was going over to San Fran and the whole Arson Judge thing happened. That's a scary feeling that I don't want. I mean, at the end of the day, hindsight's 20/20. If you lock him down, great. I'm happy. I'm a happy camper. But don't scare me like that. We got to lock this down now, especially what if his value even goes up even more?
Right.
You know what I mean? Or we get a season where we're kind of confused of what we're going to get from Vladdy, and then we let him walk. I just want to get this done deal. I want to get it done.
Yeah, that is true, right? Because we're always, we're talking about him walking into free agency, just kind of assuming that he's going to do the exact same thing,
Right.
or maybe a bit less than he did.
Yeah, what if he doesn't?
Right.
Now I'm confused.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Like, I don't really want to be confused. And then what if he does have an MVP caliber season, and now you're looking at the value and you're going, oh shit, like is this a 400 or 450 million guy? Like,
right.
Maybe depending on what he does. Like, I don't really want to get to that spot either, and then you're going to be kind of going back and forth with the Mets and the Dodgers
Exactly.
and whatnot. I don't want
that.
to be fighting the LA Dodgers or the New York Mets for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., So
right.
I do think, as we've said time and time again, this offseason is the time to do it. And if we had to put a number on it, or if a Bleacher Report article had to put a number on it, then this is what they'd be saying right here. The biggest comparison to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has always been, and probably will continue to be, Rafael Devers over there on the Boston Red Sox. Very similar slash line if you look at it. Maybe a bit more consistency with the years, from Devers, but, all of it encompassed, gives you kind of a very similar career slash from the both of them. Devers plays third base. Guerrero used to play third base, obviously moved over to first base.
Could play third base
Could
again.
be playing third base again. And at the time of his extension, which was a couple years ago, so keep in mind inflation, all that shit, Devers got $313.5 million for 10 years. So they're saying a little bit more than that for Guerrero.
Yeah, they're saying 10 years, 320. And you know what? If that was the contract, I'm smashing that accept button. Dude, I was even thinking that this contract could get as high, especially if you let him get close to free agency, as 350. Like if he does what he did last year, which would be just awesome for Vladdy and, if we sign him, the future of this team. But if he does what he did last year, I think that number is getting even higher. And then he goes and competes or gets a lot of competition in the the free agency market, and that number is going to go up and up and up. It could be 350.
Yeah.
So if he's okay with 320, I'm smashing it right now. We've been going back and forth between who's a better player, Vladdy and Devers, and it feels like every other year it flip-flops who's better player. But overall, they're pretty much the same. So give me that contract immediately.
Yeah, no, and 10 years is a really good length for me as well.
Yeah.
Like 10 years is long enough that you can have kind of multiple waves of talent come through as well. If it is a 10-year thing, then that puts him on pace to be a free agent come, I think, age 36, 37, which is, let's face it, right around the time when probably the decline would be pretty severe. So at that point, I think we would be ready as an organization to move on from him, obviously depending on what he's still doing and where we're at. But 10 years, 320 feels like a great number. I do think that the number itself maybe is a little low, but you also got to factor in Guerrero's defense. Not the best. So there are a lot of things that kind of contributed to it being that level. But $32 million a year for somebody who we anticipate and we expect to be in the MVP conversations, maybe even win one or two of those when it's all said and done, right? Be up there in home runs, be up there in RBIs. That to me feels like the going rate these days.
Yeah, Eshawn's saying that would be a steal for Vlad, and I agree. I need to if I'm the Toronto Blue Jays, I know they're doing this whole thing where they're trying to hold their leverage on Vladdy by not saying he's a great generational talent.
Because they're stupid.
Because they're a stupid organization, right? And the people running it. But the whole thing is if that's the number we're trying to get to, I think you should stop BSing around. Give him first initial offer, $300 million. Vladdy, we think you're a generational talent. Here's $300 million.
Right. Yeah.
And then obviously it's gonna be that's a respectable first offer.
Yeah, exactly. You don't laugh somebody out of the room. You go, okay, we're seriously in the ballpark here. I think we can have these conversations now. Yeah, because I do really wonder, right? Where are how I wish I could just get a fly on the wall and see how far away are we right now? Because we're obviously getting on the management and whatnot quite a lot. But have they offered that?
Right. Exactly.
Should we be getting on Guerrero? Should we be getting on Guerrero? Where are we right now, boys? I have no idea. Right. They say that they're still pretty far off, and well, they're comfortable enough to take it to next season.
Right.
Is that because you've already offered this thing, or
Right.
are you guys still sticking around at the 200 million mark and not willing to budge? So
Right.
I really wish that we could see exactly where they're at, but ultimately, if that was the contract, if that was the deal, I think you got to hit it. Now, if you end up at a point where we talked about this too, right? Like if you offer him, the fucking Brinks truck and he's still saying no and he still wants to make it to free agency, then the door starts to open up a little bit more for a Guerrero trade this offseason. I want to be very clear, though, in saying, and I think we both agree with this, the likelihood of that happening for me is very small. I'm never going to say never, because you never know what can happen. But ultimately, I think it's pretty minimal. Maybe if they got Juan Soto, things would be different, and then that's a whole other thing. But the Houston Astros apparently were extremely interested in Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at this trade deadline, and it's reported that they are going to continue to be very interested in him this offseason. You think there is any reality where we even entertain these talks if you're the Toronto Blue Jays?
I think they always will. I mean, Ross Atkins has come out and said throughout the year, I mean, they've entertained, Bo Bichette talks, right? I think they're always going to have that that door open for them. But yeah, I'm with you. I highly doubt that that's going to be happening this offseason, especially because they're saying we are trying to compete in 2025. And if you take a look at where they are in their financials, they kind of need to compete. They need to make a lot of money this next year. So trading Vladdy is probably the last option, or the last kind of good option for them to make any money. Like, let's trade away our star player, and that'll bring the fans back. But regardless, I mean, this offseason, maybe not, but I'm actually looking a lot at in the next offseason, right? If they don't end up going and I'm talking about the Houston Astros, getting a Pete Alonso, because that guy's a available free agent. Like, they have a big hole at first base. We've known this for some time. If they don't go get Pete Alonso, which I think that should be their number one target this offseason, if they don't get a Pete Alonso, then I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is that next option for them if he's not getting extended. So for me, they might wait a little bit. But granted, Houston Astros aren't really known, which is crazy to think, to spend over $300 million on players. They don't really do that. That's why they let a lot of their key guys walk.
Right.
And so that's a questionable thing for me, whether they're even going to attempt it or not or get it done.
Well, and honestly, I think that there's something to be said about that because they have been so good for so long. Maybe it's because they don't pay these older guys.
Right, that's probably right.
Get bogged down
That's
in
true.
these long-term contracts.
That's true.
So there's definitely something to be said for that approach. I understand where people are coming from, that, the fit is there and all that stuff. But it does feel like, whenever I'm seeing these articles come out, they are very Houston Astros centric and not really thinking about it from a Toronto Blue Jay standpoint. That is our jobs. That's what we do. And I would argue that with everything that has been said right now, like a Guerrero trade just does not make any sense. You got to give us everything and more. I do want Kyle Tucker coming back, and I do want Jeremy Pena coming back, and I do want your top prospect.
Let's fleece these guys.
Yeah. Like, if we really want to fuck them, then okay, sure, I guess so. But ultimately that would never happen. So I think that a Vlad trade is just so far outside of the realm of possibility right now, and there's got to be so many other things that transpire before you would get to that point if you're the management. But because of that, it all comes back to this. You got the leverage right now, or at least you have a little bit of it, and that's why you got to maximize your time this offseason and hopefully get the deal done early, so then you can start addressing the other parts of this team, like the bullpen and like free agents and like any a Bo Bichette trade if that's where you want to go. It feels like the first domino that needs to fall is the Guerrero thing, so we can stop talking about it.
Yeah, and honestly, this offseason will feel really awkward if we don't have a Guerrero extension in place in November. Like, it would really feel awkward, because where do you go? Like, a lot of the decisions, like you're saying, they're kind of based off of that Guerrero extension. If you don't sign Guerrero, well, now we're looking at 1 year supplement guys that, quite frankly, a lot of guys signing for 1 year aren't really gonna be that good unless they are not getting the market that they want or the price they want. It's like a Teoscar Hernandez situation. That's the only way you can really get a high impact guy for 1 year, like a Marcus Semien back in the day when we signed him. But a lot of guys that are gonna be impact players are gonna want longer term deals. And if they're not gonna want to sign here unless we have at least the bare minimum Vladdy, because without that, we're just a 74-win ball team that's the window's closing. So you have to show them something, guys.
Yeah, 100%. And that is like the first step of anything. That honestly just, and let's face it, that doesn't put anyone over the top. That's just the bare minimum.
That's the bare minimum.
Like, that's the bare minimum of
man.
anything, right? Because any other ball team that's going to be talking to Teoscar Hernandez, I can assure you almost that they have more than Guerrero, right?
Look at Dodgers.
Yeah.
They can just say, hey, dude, like, let's just take the exact dollar amount that you signed this year, $23 million, and let's extend
times
it for 4
it by
years.
3 years.
Yeah, let's just go with that.
And he probably
would.
fact, I would accept that too if I was him,
Yes.
because he's doing pretty damn good over there for the LA Dodgers. That's what's going on right now with Guerrero, everybody. Let's move on and talk a little bit about some internal moves that the Toronto Blue Jays have. I guess I was going to say that they've made, but it kind of just happened to them because this guy decided to move on.
He's like, I'm done with this organization.
Yeah. Will Ferrell's long-lost brother, Shane Ferrell, he was part of, what was his job title exactly?
He was the scouting director for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Okay. Well, he's gone.
He's gone. He was with the team from 2020 to 2024, so again, he's the scouting director. There's a lot of people underneath that are doing the jobs, and they're probably coming back to him, reporting on it, and then he's kind of making a decision overall on giving it to the Ross Atkins in the front office, saying this is what we think we got here, right? You ever play Madden 25 or any of the Madden games? This is the lead guy over there reporting to you, the GM, the player, of what's going on, and then they make their picks. So his job was to go and find out which guys to go draft. So from 2020 to 2024. They made some decisions. Oh, look, there you are, Nick. That's cool.
Sweet.
So, I mean, the guys that we got in those years are okay, I guess you'd say. I mean, 2020, the big one was Austin Martin, which we did trade away for Jose Barrios. So at the time, we kind of capitalized on that. Austin Martin's still yet to be proven, so we'll kind of see where he goes from there. The other kind of big names, I guess Gunnar Hoagland, we traded away as well. We have no idea what he's up to nowadays. I don't think he's doing that good. And then, then you've had Barriera, which he's going I think he's getting TJ, or he's getting some sort of version of
something.
Some version. He's going to be gone for a while. Arjun Amala is probably the one bright spot because then you got Trey Savage, which kind of fell to us. But regardless, nothing really kind of coming up through the systems since the guy. Obviously, it's 4 years. It's very young, but I guess his determination, I guess our determination of his time here will be decided in the next couple of years. But really nothing crazy happening with Shane Ferrell.
Yeah, I mean, like that I've been kind of on that train that we do need better scouting.
We need a lot better scouting,
better development, and we do need all
development
that shit.
too.
So,
definitely.
I mean, it's tough to really evaluate exactly what this guy did or did not do because he was here for such a small period of time, and you haven't got to see the either benefits or lack thereof from some of the players that were drafted and scouted from this Toronto Blue Jays organization. But I will say that in the last couple of years, there has not been an influx at all in the talent coming from the farm system. And under this guy's, I guess, direction, we have one of the worst farm systems in baseball. That's not all his fault because we traded a lot of them away and all that stuff. But I know that we're not getting, incredibly better either. So I hope that the Toronto Blue Jays take this as an opportunity and don't just do what they normally do and internally promote or whatever, but really evaluate, where were the holes, where were the flaws with the scouting, with the development that we've done in the last couple of years. How do we improve that? Because there is something to be said for the Houston Astros approach of never paying for older guys and just continuing to recycle the young dudes. It does work if you're good at it and if you can find the diamonds in the rough. But you need somebody that can find those people.
Yeah, to evaluate Shane Ferrell, I mean, you can't really. And honestly, I would put more of my frustrations towards developing a lot of our prospects on the development team. The minor league coaches, the training staff, especially the training staff with our pitchers. That is brutal. I mean, the amount of injuries that we've had over the past few years and the Tommy Johns in our minor league system. I mean, it could go to show that maybe it is just the fact that we have these guys throwing in the upper 90s and 100s on a regular basis, and they're so young and that they're getting injured so early, and it takes longer for them to develop. Maybe that's a part of it for sure. But, you look at other organizations and, why are they experiencing the similar amounts? I'm not too privy to that information. But regardless, we need to be a little bit better at that. I did see a comment here by Daniela, just an interesting kind of question about development in arms in our system, saying, do you see Jake Bloss making the team next year? It's interesting. I mean, that's a whole conversation, I think, for sure, because you look at the rotation right now, and you got Yariel and Bowden on the back end, right, 4 and 5. I think it's going to be taking injury, or at least maybe a lot of underperformances for Jake Bloss to kind of get back into the rotation.
I was kind of sad that we never
that we never got him
in general, right? Like I really thought that he was going to be one of those audition pieces that we bring up and then just have him throw a couple innings and see what's what. I guess they didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I guess there wasn't really a need.
Yeah, like for that reason alone, like I'm gonna kind of reserve my speculation on that until I see spring training. If he's coming out and looking incredible in spring training, and also depending on the depth that we have right there in that pitching, like what do you do this offseason? How many arms do you bring in? Do we trade any of them away? Do we trade for some people? What does the bullpen look like? There's so much different moving pieces right there. I guess I would say, though, that at some point next year, yes. At some point next year. In fact, I'd be kind of surprised if you don't see him in some type of capacity with the Toronto Blue Jays team next year.
The only way he gets like a starting role, let's say he gets a starting role out of the gate, is if injuries and then he kicks ass in spring training. It's like a Bowden Francis situation where like last year he was auditioning for it.
Yeah.
The opportunity lined up where Alek Manoah got injured and he was kicking ass in spring training. He was the next man up. So it's got to be one of those situations for me.
Agreed. Let's move on and talk a little bit about another Toronto Blue Jays prospect that is relatively exciting. We lost out on seeing the full potential this year due to some, I guess, bad decisions by him. Hopefully he's learned his lesson, though. Orelvis Martinez, you don't need PEDs, dude. You already got that natural born power. And showcasing it a little bit early on in the Winter League right there. Hit himself a home run. Nice to see that he's still swinging the bat well. This is somebody who you need to see develop into a top tier player, or at least a starter for the Toronto Blue Jays moving forward. I was really hoping that you get to see in the second half of the season like kind of Spencer Horwitz level production from him. Obviously that wasn't the case. We were kind of robbed of that. But hopefully have himself a good Winter League, have himself a good off season. And this is somebody that I do think there's a serious shot to see him start with the team next year.
Yeah, I mean, especially if we don't end up going and getting Alex Bregman, which, you could make an argument. I've seen a lot of people on our social media talk about this too. Like, you could make an argument that getting Alex Bregman kind of isn't the best option because maybe there's an aging contract in there, and they end up with another George Springer. And it's like, okay, like I absolutely understand that the risk is there and we're kind of recency bias is playing into it. But if you end up not going to get Alex Bregman, well, you do got your third baseman, potentially the future right there. I mean, defensively speaking, we haven't seen a whole lot of him. He's been playing a lot of second base, so we'll see which kind of position he lands. But we do have an influx of guys in there, so maybe, hopefully, you find a home. He is only going to be 23 going into next year, so granted, guys, this is a 23-year-old, and he's not touted to be the next Acuna or whatever.
Yeah, it's supposed to be good, but not that good.
Good, but not that good. Yeah, it's gonna take some time for him to get adjusted to the big league level. So I'm not gonna say like he's gonna be the great piece we need for next year, which kind of sucks because we kind of do need a great piece for next year in some capacity that might take away some of his playing time. Maybe. We'll see.
I mean, like, obviously there's still a lot of questions with Orelvis Martinez. Good to see that there is power there from him because I do believe that he's going to have to be a key player moving forward for us. But, yeah, you're right. It's not a Tatis. It's not an Acuna. No. It's not like a plug and play and, this guy's immediately going to be an MVP conversation.
No one's talking about him for Rookie of the Year
at all. No, it's going to take a while for him to adjust to the MLB level. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But, these are the first steps. We got to crawl before we can run type thing.
Oh, yes, we do. And speaking of prospects, not as highly touted as Orelvis Martinez in our system, we've got some news of some minor league guys who have earned the MLB Pipeline Prospects of the Year. Big shout out to Alan Roden and Fernando Perez, who I'm going to be completely transparent, everybody. I heard of Alan Roden. I actually made a video on Alan Roden. I actually really like this guy. But I have never heard of Fernando Perez. I'm sorry. I'm a terrible Blue Jays fan.
I mean, you've heard of him now, right?
I've heard of him now.
MLB Pipeline Prospect of the Year, or at least one of them
for the Jays.
Apparently, this is something. If you've never heard of this before, everybody has. Every team gets a couple MLB Pipeline Prospects of the Year. Just some guys that like really stood out and was looking promising and everything like that. Perez being one of them. A pitcher wrote in, like you said in your video and previously, like
he's awesome.
This is just a solid piece right here who could come up and be a role player with the Toronto Blue Jays if you needed him to.
Honestly, like Alan Rodin, if we're gonna talk about anybody that needs some playing time next year, when you look at our outfield right now with Varsho and you got George Springer who's aging and might need to reduce some playing time there, and then you got this mix of like Davis Schneider, Loper, Fido, Clase, we don't know. I think you got to give Alan Rodin a shot.
Yeah,
you got to give Alan Rodin a shot because even in AAA, when he got called up, he played more games in AAA last year at the end of the season, 71 games. He batted for a 916 OPS. You know, that's the conversation that, you know, Horwitz was in, Barger was in, and they got an opportunity. Alan Rodin hits for a high average. Blue Jays need that. We talk about leadoff guys that we're missing.
Sure.
This is one of the arguments I made in the video I made literally a year ago was Alan Rodin's a leadoff type of guy.
298 batting average, over 400 on base in several levels in the minors.
Yeah.
Like that's incredibly solid, right?
Really solid, right? Like this guy is one of those guys where, yeah, I can see him come up, and it's not like he was a, you know, no disrespect to Horwitz or Schneider. It's not like he was a late round, like diamond in the rough. He was a third rounder. Like there's actual weight to this guy.
Yeah.
You know, in his prospect pedigree, and he's gonna be turning 25. So it feels like this is the time to call him up, see what he's got. Yes, we got Clase, and yes, we've got Loper Fido, but honestly, it's whoever the hell wants to do it for me.
Well, I'll be honest, this guy is way higher than me than Loper Fido.
I agree. Loper Fido for me is
yeah.
Strikeouts are not good right now.
You know, another one that I'm kind of surprised at did not come up, like similar to Jake Bloss. Like,
similar to Jake Bloss.
Why didn't we see this guy at all in the latter parts of the season? Like during audition season, you know, you'd think somebody that had a 916 OPS in the minor leagues would warrant a spot at the MLB level. Assuredly should be warranting a spot in this coming season, though, especially if you're not going to go out and you're not going to, you know, get a Teo or a Santander or Juan Soto or whatnot. So, you know, all that. Like, Rodin, shout out to you for being MLB Pipeline Player of the Year. You deserve to come up with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Absolutely. And then we'll give some love to Fernando Perez. And maybe this is my ignorance. Okay, maybe this is my ignorance. But Fernando Perez got the MLB Pipeline Prospect of the Year. I'm looking at his stats in 2024. Young dude, 20 years old, so that's very cool. But single A ball, pitched for an ERA of 406. Whip wasn't bad, 1.061. He started 17 games, 82 innings. That's a decent amount of innings right there for a young guy in 17 starts. And then, you know, strikeouts were above 9. So that was good. But, you know, I am kind of shocked that this is the prospect of the year, I guess, on the pitching side of things. You know what I mean? Like I guess it goes to show how lack of depth we've got in our system for pitching, guys.
Yeah, we don't. You know, like we really don't. You know, when you look at that thing, and the top guys that we did have are hurt, and then you know we drafted D Savage, which is great, but he wasn't in there long enough to be in that conversation. So
yeah, actually, he's our 10th ranked prospect. So I mean,
kind of makes sense,
the best of our prospects,
like that's,
right?
Yeah, like that's one of our top pitching prospects right there. Keep in mind, he is a very young guy, so it's going to take a while for him to get up there. You know, so like he's definitely got a lot of work to do, but this is a nice little you know, tidbit on the resume for him. Just be like, all right, get yourself a nod. You played well this year. Can we build on that moving forward?
Yeah, that's what's gonna be coming down to. Now, again, granted, going back to trying to compete in 2025, is this the recipe for competing? No, this is the recipe for rebuilding, right? Is bringing up these guys, and if the Blue Jays management is serious about competing next year, I love Alan Rodin. Maybe, yes, he's got to give a shot, but that can't be the guy you're relying on. You need someone who's got major league experience if you really want to go on a run next year.
Obviously this is very dependent on the, you know, like what we do this offseason, who do we trade, who do we sign. But right now, you know, assuming we have a kind of a, you know, a mid-off season, get some guys, you know, don't go crazy or anything like that. Shout out to Betway. What do you think the win-loss record line is going to be for the Toronto Blue Jays, right?
You know, that's actually a great thing. We got to throw a shout-out to Betway. So while I think about that, let's give a quick shout-out to Betway. Whenever you want to go, Nick, go ahead. Big shout out to Betway.
Time for a quick shout out to Betway, the best place to make all of your sports bets on all of your favorite sports teams. Betway's in collaboration with iGaming Ontario. Must be 19 years of age or older to participate. Scan this QR code down below to create your free account today. Also, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content.
Yeah, shout out to Betway, guys. If you're sports bettors, go hop on to Betway. They're huge supporters of this channel. Yeah, my win-loss total line. It's early.
It's really early. I'm even looking it up right now.
Yeah,
Nobody's
they
gonna
don't have
have it because obviously, like there's the entire off season that you got to get through. You know, to give you guys some perspective, this past year, I think we were walking. It was 87.5. I believe it was. There was a couple different sports books that had it at 86.5. I think one even had it at 88.5. But you know, kind of averaged out at 87.5. Obviously, they smashed the under on that one. What do you think it would be at this year?
Okay, I'm going to try to stay as least biased as possible. I mean, let's take a look. So what do we get? 74 wins, right?
74 wins.
And what's changing from this season? I mean, not a whole lot. I mean, we were better in the... No, we were actually better in the back half, right? So I get at least a little bit of slightly better in the back half. You got to imagine we're going to have our healthier bullpen, but we are missing a lot of pieces. That kind of the same to me. Rotation's going to be kind of the same to me. Really not much difference there. The lineup is going to be kind of, it's going to be all kind of same. I honestly think it might be like 74.5.
74.5. I think it's going to be a bit better than that. I think that
be better.
I think that Vegas will be nice, and they'll be like, you guys really, you know, because I think that I think people will be like, oh, like, Blue Jays can't be that bad again. You know, like this was the season from hell. Like Bo, could he bounce back?
Right, considering Bo.
You know, like
77.5.
If Guerrero is in a career year, I was thinking honestly like 77.5, 78.5. Like I think something maybe 78.5 is a bit too high actually. Maybe 77.5.
Yeah,
because at 77.5,
I'd start to think about it.
I would start thinking about going over.
I would go over at 74.5 for sure. Yeah, 77.5.
I'm like, now I start to get into that conversation. I'm not sure anymore. You know?
Okay, I like it. I like it. Okay, 77.5, guys. You let us know in the chat. What would your over
preliminary line? Obviously, you sign Juan Soto. That's gonna skyrocket.
83.5.
Yeah, right. Like you know, so you know, things are gonna change and everything like that. But as of right now, that's where we're at. Can we buff that thing this offseason? Guerrero extension. You know, Teo signing. Couple other things. That would be a way to do it. Thank you everybody for tuning in to the Blue Jays Today show. Shout out to everybody that's watched. Hit that like, smash that subscribe button. I saw some people in the chat asking, are we going to be watching along for the World Series, for the New York Yankees, for the LA Dodgers? Yes, we are, but not on this channel. Search up Bad for Baseball. That is where we're going to be live. Game 1 this Friday. Garrett Cole takes the bump for the Yankees. Not sure for the Dodgers yet, but it doesn't really matter when you got a bullpen like they do.
Real.
Electric World Series. 2 juggernauts going at it. Should be lots of fun, and we will be live on Bad for Baseball.
Yeah. Hit that like button. Subscribe to Blue Jays Today. Thank you all for watching, and as always, guys,
go Jays, go.